The target was not a missile base, not a command bunker, not even a weapons factory. It was energy. And when the strike hit, it sent a message far beyond the battlefield. Flames rising from one of the most critical gas fields on Earth. Shockwaves through global markets. And a question that military analysts are now asking in private briefings. Why target the heart of Iran energy infrastructure now? Because this was not just a strike, it was a shift in strategy. And more importantly, it revealed a new layer of coordination that could reshape the entire conflict. But the real mystery is this. How do you hit one of the most heavily monitored energy zones in the Persian Gulf without triggering a wider regional collapse within hours? To understand that, we need to go deeper, because this operation was not random. It was calculated, precise, and designed to hit where it hurts most. The South Pars gas field is not just another energy site. It is the backbone of Iran's economic engine. Shared with Qatar, it is the largest natural gas field in the world, a massive offshore reservoir feeding refineries and export networks across Iran. For decades, it has been protected not only by physical defenses, but by strategic logic. Energy infrastructure was often considered too dangerous to target directly. Why? Because attacking it risks global consequences, supply disruptions, price spikes, and escalation that drags multiple countries into the conflict. So why was that line crossed? Because the role of energy in modern warfare has changed. In recent years, Iran has expanded its missile program and regional influence. Much of that capability is sustained by energy revenue. So instead of targeting weapons after they are built, this strategy goes after the system that funds and sustains them. That is the context behind the strike. Not just retaliation, but degradation. And that brings us to how this operation likely unfolded. Because hitting a site like South Pars is not simple. It requires precision, timing, and coordination across multiple domains. Most modern strikes rely on a combination of standoff weapons. These include air-launched cruise missiles and precision-guided munitions. Typical cruise missiles used in such operations can travel at subsonic speeds, often around 0.8 to 0.9 Mach. That may sound slow, but speed is not the key advantage here. Stealth is. These missiles fly at very low altitudes, sometimes just a few dozen meters above the surface. They follow terrain contours, adjusting their path in real time using advanced guidance systems. Inertial navigation systems keep them on course. Satellite guidance refines accuracy, and terminal seekers lock onto the target in the final seconds. Range can extend from several hundred to over 1,000 kilometers, depending on the platform. That allows launch aircraft or naval assets to stay far outside defended airspace. And that is where coordination becomes critical. Reports suggest this was not a single-axis strike. Instead, it likely involved layered timing, multiple launch points, possibly from air, sea, or even long-range platforms. The goal is to compress reaction time, because even the most advanced air defense systems rely on detection first, and detection is not guaranteed. Especially in a region like the Persian Gulf, high humidity, heat distortion, dense infrastructure. All of these factors can complicate radar tracking. Now add low-altitude incoming threats, and the window to respond becomes extremely small. But here is where things get even more complex. Energy facilities are not designed like military bases. They are spread out, interconnected, and highly sensitive. Pipelines, processing units, storage tanks. You do not need a massive warhead to cause disruption. Even a relatively small precision strike can halt production. Not overwhelming force, but targeted disruption. And that is likely what made this operation effective. However, this raises another critical question. Why are defense systems still struggling to stop them completely? Because the challenge is not just speed, it is complexity. Modern air defenses are designed to intercept incoming threats, but they rely on prediction. Where's the missile going? How fast? What path will it take? Low-flying cruise missiles reduce detection range. Multiple incoming threats create confusion, and when targets are spread across a wide area, defenders must make rapid decisions about what to protect first. Do you defend the refinery, the pipelines, the control systems? There is no perfect answer. And that is exactly the pressure point this operation exploited. But what makes this situation even more dangerous is what comes next. Because targeting energy infrastructure does not just affect one country. It affects the entire region, and possibly the global economy. Iran has already signaled that it could respond by targeting energy facilities in neighboring countries. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, all operate critical oil and gas infrastructure within range of Iranian systems. At the same time, reports indicate that Gulf states are actively intercepting incoming projectiles, which means the air defense network across the region is already under strain, and that creates a fragile balance. One miscalculation, one missed interception, and the situation could escalate beyond control. But the deeper implication is this. Energy is no longer just an economic asset. It is a battlefield. What we are seeing now is the beginning of a strategy that targets the foundation of national power itself. The real impact of this strike is not just what was hit, it is how it changes the rules of modern conflict. The strike did not just damage infrastructure, it changed the equation. Because once energy becomes a target, every major power in the region is suddenly exposed. And that is where the real consequences begin to unfold. This is no longer about a single operation in the Persian Gulf. It is about a new phase of warfare where economic lifelines are treated as strategic vulnerabilities. And in that environment, deterrence becomes much harder to maintain. Think about the logic for a moment. Traditional military targets are finite. Air bases, missile silos, command centers. They are hardened, defended, and expected to be attacked in wartime. But energy infrastructure is different. It is vast, distributed, and often impossible to fully protect. Gas fields stretch across kilometers. Pipelines run for hundreds of miles. Processing facilities operate continuously and cannot simply shut down without consequences. So when these become targets, the defensive burden increases dramatically. And that is exactly what makes this strategy so effective. It forces the opponent to defend everything, while the attacker only needs to find one weak point. Now consider the regional picture. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates are among the world's most important energy exporters. Their oil and gas facilities are deeply integrated into global supply chains. Any disruption, even temporary, can ripple through international markets. Prices react instantly, shipping routes adjust, strategic reserves are reconsidered, and that is before any physical damage spreads. We have seen glimpses of this before. Limited strikes on oil facilities in the region have caused sharp spikes in global prices within hours. Now imagine a sustained campaign targeting multiple sites. That is the scenario analysts are quietly modeling right now, and it is why this latest strike is being taken so seriously. But there is another layer to this: coordination. Because what makes this operation stand out is not just the target selection, it is the integration behind it. A coordinated strike suggests shared intelligence, real-time surveillance, and synchronized execution across different platforms. This is not something that happens spontaneously. It requires planning, communication, and trust between partners. And that signals a shift toward more tightly aligned operations in the region. For Iran, that creates a different kind of pressure. It is no longer dealing with isolated actions, but with a networked approach that can adapt quickly. So how might Iran respond? There are several possibilities: direct retaliation against similar energy targets in the Gulf, or use of long-range missiles, or indirect actions through regional proxies. Each option carries risk, because escalation in this domain does not stay contained. It spreads. And that is where air defense systems come back into focus. Across the Gulf, countries have invested heavily in layered defense networks. These include long-range radar systems, interceptor missiles, and integrated command structures. Some systems engage ballistic threats at high altitude. Others focus on low-flying cruise missiles and drones. But even with these layers, coverage is not perfect. Geography creates gaps, reaction time remains limited, and saturation attacks can overwhelm defenses. That is why reports of ongoing interceptions are significant. They indicate that the region is already operating in a high-alert environment, constant tracking, rapid engagement decisions, and a continuous risk of something slipping through. Now add one more factor: uncertainty. Information is often incomplete. Damage assessments take time. Attribution can be contested, and public statements may not fully reflect operational realities. That uncertainty increases the chance of miscalculation. A defensive action could be interpreted as escalation. A limited strike could trigger a broader response. And once that cycle begins, it becomes very difficult to control. This is why energy targeting is so destabilizing. It sits at the intersection of military strategy and global economics. And any disruption is felt far beyond the immediate conflict zone. Military planners around the world are watching this closely, because the lessons here extend beyond the Middle East. If energy infrastructure can be targeted with precision and limited risk to the attacker, then similar strategies could emerge in other regions. Critical nodes, economic choke points, industrial hubs, all becoming potential targets. This forces a fundamental rethink of defense planning. Protection is no longer just about military assets. It is about safeguarding the systems that keep a nation functioning. Everything becomes the battlefield. So the question is no longer whether these targets will be attacked, but how countries will adapt to defend them. The line between economic pressure and military action is blurring. This is the shift in modern conflict, and perhaps a warning of what comes next.